Welcome to the Soul Deep Podcast with Jessica Janty. Join me as we dive deep into raw, real, in-depth conversations about life, love, relationships, sexuality, spirituality, what it is we're really here for, and anything in between. I want this to feel like a safe space for anyone on a spiritual journey, trying to find answers in your truth by having open heart and open-minded conversations. And my hope for you as a listener is that you feel this is a safe space here, a place to hear things from a different perspective that may challenge you and your thinking in the best way possible, allowing you to give grace to how you've been raised or what you've been taught or told to believe. And perhaps you find your truth as I search for mine on this journey we call life. So grab your favorite drink, cozy on up to your couch or wherever you listen from, and join me for these soul deep conversations. All right, so today I have with me the wonderful, beautiful Luz Hernandez, who is a growth coach, and I have actually had the pleasure of being in a container with Luz. We both shared a mentor. Man, it's probably been at least 2 years or so since we've been in her space, I do believe.
Yes,
But I've just loved watching you and what you are doing in this world with helping girls and empowerment and all of that. And we'll get into all of that in a little bit here. But before we go too far, I love to start our sessions off, our podcast here, and any session that I do with anybody usually is just a little bit of breath to ground us into the space, into this energy. So if you are driving, do not close your eyes. But if you're in a space where you feel comfortable enough to close your eyes, I invite you to do that here. And we are just going to take some breaths in through our nose and out through our mouth. And as you're breathing into your nose, try to bring that breath all the way into your belly. This is not something that is intuitive to us. When we were born, we had this, but somewhere along the line, it got, I don't know, we breathe mostly into our chest. And so if we can really learn to breathe into our belly, taking that breath all the way down, just keeping with these breaths, this in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just allowing your body to lead you here with your breath. Whether you want it just to be a slow, long inhale and long exhale. And as we take these breaths, this power of the pause, I love to call it, it's really just allowing us to be present in this space, to let go of anything from beforehand, letting go of any to-do lists or things that we have to do later, and just really being present in this moment. Just being with your breath. And so we'll just take maybe 2 more big deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And 1 more. And on your exhale, if you feel comfortable to do an audible exhale, letting it go. And then just coming back to the space whenever you're ready. Thank you for doing that with me. And thank you for those of you at home who are listening. I just feel like it is such a great way to get into your body, out of your head. We are constantly in our head, this negative self, this talk and chatter and just all the things that we are inundated with all the time. And so if we can just take this little bit, even just, what did we do? Maybe 30 seconds to a minute of just like being here and being present, it really sets the tone. So awesome. Well, I would love it if you would love to just share about who you are. And one of the questions that I love to ask everybody is, what is your soul's purpose? So if you want to go into who you are, your backstory, anything that you want to share with us, and then what your soul's purpose is.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me here, Jessica. So a little bit about me. I am a mother of 2 powerful and courageous daughters. One is already out to college and the other one is a 9th grader. I love to hike. I love being in contact with nature. That's like my happy place, just being surrounded by nature, the sounds, the smells, like everything about it just like zens me and grounds me. I am also a girl coach. I empower girls with mindset tools and mindfulness. I am a wife. I love having my husband on board and supporting me through this journey. Sometimes I have crazy ideas and he's just there fully supporting me. I think that's very important as women, to have that, to lean on someone who supports you and cheers you on and helps you be the best version of yourself.
Mm.
So that is a little bit about me, who I am, and the work that I do.
And so tying that in, what do you feel is your soul's purpose right now?
Right now, my sole purpose is to really take a step back from all the doing. I feel like these 4 years, I've been doing a lot, building a business, being a mom, being at home as well. I've been playing a lot of roles, and to a certain extent, I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself and high expectations. So right now, on a wonderful phase that I'm taking less, doing less, but nourishing my soul, my spirituality, being more in contact with who I want to be, not so much the doing. And I love how you started our meditation and our breath work with stopping that to-do list, because that was me. Having a to-do list in the morning, writing it down, and checking it off at the end of the night.
Mhm.
There was no fulfillment at the end of the night. It was just like, okay, I did it. Should I feel happy? Should I celebrate this? Because I did a lot. But then at the end of the day, my soul was like, but it wasn't like soul purpose. It wasn't like nourishing you. So that is when I started noticing like it's not working out. I'm still in the same pattern, like doing. Everything serves a purpose. I totally get that. But it comes a time when things are not working out the way that you have been doing them, and it's a time to pause
Mm.
and just really look at your life. With that, I learned so much also from my daughters. I think I am a reflection of my daughters, and my oldest is so much in the do.
Mm.
And she has many activities. So when I started noticing that, I was like, that's me. Like, I taught her how to do that.
Yes.
And I told her, slow down, and she can't because it's already programmed in her mind, in her body.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, let's go back. I still have a younger one at home. Let's do it different.
Yeah.
So it's always a learning experience, but I'm at that point where I want to nourish my soul and be really intentional with the things that I want to do in life, not just do them because I want to check them off my list, but really go behind it and do them because they make me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you had so many good points there because I feel like as women who are mothers, we carry so much. There's so many hats that we wear. We are the wife and the mother and the taxi and like all these things that we have to do, and we almost carry this, it's like this badge of honor, or this like, I'm going to do all the things, and I'm going to, at the end of the day, I can say that I've done XYZ and I've checked all these boxes off, and I'm like, so great in all the things that I do because I was able to do them all myself and I didn't have to ask for help. But then it's like, well, really, like you said, you're feeling then just so depleted. Like, what am I doing? I'm literally in this, it's like a rat race, this constant like going. But are we really are we being intentional with our family, with our children, with our spouses, or our partners? Are we really being intentional, or are we just living day in and day out doing this rat race that I'll just call it because that came to my head, and not really focusing on what matters, what truly matters. And so that's why I love just watching what you've been doing with the girls that you are empowering, that you are working with. So can you talk a little bit about that and about how you got started with working with girls? Because I think and this is for me speaking, and I'm sure there's other people too, like middle school girls can be mean and they can be intimidating, and they're at this age where like you're starting not to be the person that they come to for help. Like they would rather talk to their friends, and they would rather do, like you're starting to be like mom who is not cool and mom who is, so like for me, that's always been an intimidating space is, but it's not for everyone. And obviously here you are doing this work. So I would love to know like how you got into this and how it's evolved.
Yes. So a little backstory about how I got started. I was a young girl, very self-conscious. Anxiety was always on the high. I didn't believe in myself. I had a loud inner critic. I was always putting myself down. So you can picture that little girl being scared of doing anything, taking any risks. And my parents tried their best they could with the resources they had, but they were very strict. Being the only daughter, I had and the oldest, I had high expectations of getting it right.
Yeah.
So for me, I had to be perfect. I had the nice bows. I had to be clean. I couldn't get dirty. I couldn't play with the boys. So it was a different upbringing, definitely that had an impact. And I didn't know it had an impact until I started doing my inner work. And that's when I realized how many girls go through this? How many girls are feeling anxious or scared to do even anything, even step out of their house? Like, this is not normal. This is not normal to live like this out of fear. And the more I learned about mindfulness and social emotional learning, I learned a lot with my girls because I wanted to do different. I said, I'm going to do it different and I'm going to empower them. Not only like be the leaders, but how can they manage their emotions? How can they feel them and process them in a healthy way instead of shoving them in? So I started reading a lot of books and I started going to parent workshops and I started wanting to be the best version of myself as a mom, right? Because we don't have it all right. And it was a trial and error. But then I came across like empowering girls. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I did invest it in the Girl Life program, which I'm very grateful for. And that's when I started. I'm like, oh, I could do these workshops with girls and I could take it to my community. So I'm like, let me start at home and empower my daughters and tell their friends. So I started virtually during the pandemic and I got a group of girls and we just tried it out. I was so nervous, because I still had that inner critic. But I said, you know what? It's important for me to do this because this is going to have a positive impact in the girls. So it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's all about the girls now and how I want them to feel better for themselves. So that is how I started because my little Luz wanted to heal and my little Luz wanted to have someone to support her and to love her and to see her and to really acknowledge those feelings when she was sad and crying and no one was there because my parents were very harsh. It was just like crying was just normal and just leave her until she is done crying, don't deal with that. So yeah, that is how I got started on this journey.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it's so interesting because I've been hearing a lot about like inner child has been coming up a lot over the last maybe like week or two. So it's so interesting that you kind of brought that in here as well. Have you done inner child work? Have you done that yourself?
Have I done it myself? Yes.
Yes.
With
Okay.
people.
What you're talking about is how you got to this and brought this. And
Yes.
so for people that don't understand inner child work, because I didn't really know what that meant, and I too came from parents who were just, and I love my parents, but they were a little harsh. They both came from parents themselves that were, I mean, they both came from really broken homes, and they were doing the best that they could do with what they had. I'm sure same with your parents as well. They were taught a certain way, and so that's just how they parented as well. But it was hard. It was like I felt like I needed love in a different way than I received it. And so I held on to that. I held resentment for a really long time towards my parents for not loving me the way that I needed to be loved. I just felt like they didn't love me, even though they did. They just loved me in a different way. And so I think bringing around this whole inner child healing, it's coming to learn that our parents are humans and they did the best they could with what they had, but that little child inside of you didn't get what it needed. And there's as put together as you are as a parent, if you do everything the way that you think is perfect, your child is still going to have something, because we can't love everybody exactly how they need to be loved. And so, if we grow up and we think like, okay, I'm going to do this perfectly and my child's not going to have any trauma from me and it's just going to be great and I've learned all these things, and that's not the case at all. Our children also need to be loved in a different way than we know how to love. So it's learning all of that, and then learning also as you are growing and you are evolving and you're healing, it's healing those pieces of yourself that didn't get the love. It's letting you, this little person inside of you, feel that. So, and if you want to speak to any more about like inner child healing and the work, and maybe explain it a little better than I did, just so people at home can understand like what that looks like.
Yeah, you did amazing at explaining it. But yeah, a little bit more into it. The way that I have been doing my inner work and healing that inner child is just really going back to any experiences, and really acknowledging those feelings when I feel overwhelmed or anxious. Sometimes I don't even have to be aware of going back. Like my body tells me when I'm feeling the anxiety. And then I have to take a pause and say, okay, where is this coming from? I'm safe. This is a safe place. It's coming from the past. Like my body is triggered by something. So if I'm in a safe space, I go by it, I think about it, and I acknowledge it, and I just kind of parent myself, and give myself that reassurance, like, you're okay, you're safe, you were scared at that time, but right now I'm here with you. And I kind of hold myself, kind of hold that little Luz within myself. So those are the things. A lot of visualization goes in the process with this, just to really see yourself as the parent that you needed and heal that little girl that was there. And journaling is another great tool that I have been using to heal my inner child. Whatever comes up, whatever feelings I have a journal all the time with me, and that has helped me a lot. So those are some tools that I use for that inner child, and not really judging, but coming from a place of love and then observing the situation. Because when we get into judgment or we get too deep into the inner child, then we're not healing in a healthy way. So I don't want you to go deep into it either.
Right. Yes. But I love that piece that you talked about safety too, because that's something that I do a lot in the work that I do, is really finding safety. Because if you can't find safety in yourself, it's really hard to heal those wounds. It's hard to bring yourself to that place where then you can heal it. Because if you don't feel safe, your body's just going to keep going back into that feeling or into that sensation. And so you have to learn the tools to find safety in yourself first, which can be really hard to do if you don't know how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is why it's important to teach our younger generation these tools, at an early age. I mean, a little girl that's feeling anger and doesn't know how to process that anger. And maybe it's through kicking, through biting, through screaming. But why did we teach that little girl to just pause, use her breath, journal what she's feeling, and then she could come back and express with her words?
Yeah.
So like really reframing the whole situation.
I love that, because for most, I mean, I think we're similar in age, and I think for most of us, we were taught, like you said, we'll just leave you alone until you're, until you're not throwing a fit anymore. Or for me, it was a lot of like, don't cry. Like we had to be seen almost as perfect. I felt like it didn't matter what was happening in the home or inside of us, but on the outside, we had to look perfect. We had to be put together. We had to show the world that we were the perfect family. And so you learn that, and I think this is where that perfectionism comes from, that you talked about. I call myself a recovering perfectionist, because I'm still recovering. I have not like completely given that over. I try daily to not be a perfectionist, because But that's just how I was brought up, is it has to look perfect. You have to be perfect in order to show the world, to seem like you are, I don't want to say worthy, but just that you are important. You have to be perfect. That's what I associated with importance or even worthiness. I think really truly, if I really sit with it, is unless you are perfect, you are not worthy. And so that it was really hard for me to get over that perfectionism. Like we were just told to don't cry. You're fine. Everything is fine. It's fine. It's fine. That was a big thing. Like everything's fine. Or we just don't talk about it. Well, then as a child, you're sitting there with, well, what do I do with these big, heavy emotions? I mean, you're going through so much as a child, especially with puberty and all of that. And no one tells us how to go through it. It's just like, oh, you're fine. You figure it out, But if we can give, especially girls with all these hormones that go on, there's so much to it. That's why I just love the work that you're doing, because if we can help them at an early age so that they can learn that feeling these emotions are just as important, and writing about them and feeling and trying to like understand them is so important, instead of just pushing them off and pretending like they're not there, because that's where we build all this trauma and this stuck and stored emotions in our body, and then our body has all this like disease and sickness and illness that comes out because we've just continued to repress and push down and pretend like it's not there, and that's not healthy at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, in the long run, everything comes out. So
Mhm.
your body is going to react to all those feelings that you have been putting down. It is going to come up sooner or
Mhm.
later, you know? And like you said, with illnesses, diseases. Um, but definitely it's that perfectionism that gets to us, especially as women. So just bringing awareness to these topics for us to really be mindful how we raise our girls and also our boys, because with our
Mhm.
boys, we also have some
Yep.
limiting beliefs that we impose in them
Mhm.
as
Yep.
well. Like, don't cry, especially
Yes.
in the Hispanic community. Don't cry because you're the man,
Mhm.
right? Don't show up any feelings. Don't be vulnerable. Be the
Mhm.
strong.
Yeah.
So I think with both our boys and girls, definitely create that safe space at home. It starts at
Mhm.
home, where we
Yes.
tell them that it's a safe space for them to express their feelings, their emotions, and then teach them these mindful techniques that they can practice so they can process in a healthy way.
Mm.
But with the perfectionism, I wanted to say that many of the times we don't take risks. We don't step out there and try new things. Like I had this dream before I started doing these workshops. I had this dream to empower girls. But a lot of the times I'm like, it's not like I don't have everything set in place, like all my duckies in a row. How am I gonna do this? Like that perfectionism got a lot in the way for a few years until I said, you know what? I'm just gonna do it messy. I don't care. I'm just gonna show up for the girls because
Yeah.
it's gonna be for their benefit. So really teach our girls that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to just show up how they are. And I think that's really hard with a society that
Yeah.
tells us all these different disempowering messages. So like we're like pushing against this whole system that it's not only the rules, but it's now the energy, you
Mm.
know? And some kids might feel it and they don't know what's going on in their body because they don't have the awareness. But once
Mhm.
we start talking about all these things and how the energy is, and you can also protect yourself, especially them, that they're so vulnerable and we have some
Mhm.
kids that are very sensitive, how we can teach them that it's okay to be sensitive, but they also have to protect their energy because they can grab anything that's around them.
100%. Yeah, and you also spoke to a good point too with, I don't think you used the word comparison. I'm trying to remember what word you use, but just like everything that's around us. We've got social media, like man, these kids, it's hard. We didn't have all of this social media right at our fingertips to compare ourselves to. Yes, we had the magazines. I remember 17 magazine and things like that, but we didn't have this constant bombardment of and filters. and all these things that make us look so much better than are just our normal self, which we look, and that's the problem, is that then they grow up thinking, oh, I'm not pretty enough just by myself. So I have to filter, I have to do this. And now I have to look like this person or have to act like this person because, it shows up on TikTok. And there's just, I remember when my daughter would constantly be like, okay, mom, I need this thing. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, I just saw it on TikTok. And I'm like, well, just because TikTok has it, like, doesn't mean that you need it. But this is what is happening to our children, is they are constantly being inundated and sold to all the time just by them scrolling on their social media, on the platforms. Excuse me. And so, yeah, I just feel like it is hard. I cannot even imagine being and growing up in this space. Like I didn't have social media until I don't even remember how old I was. That's the sad thing. But it wasn't when I was in high school. I think it was past. I think my kids were already even born. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's just so much that they have to compete against, which just it feels very sad to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a hard time that our kids are experiencing at the moment. And and just like as parents, I think we have more responsibility as
Mm-hmm.
parents now than before. I mean, I remember we used to play outside and be free and be in the neighborhood and ride our bikes and just be kids.
Yeah.
Well, it's different, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on in the world, and you just want to have your kids safe.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Yeah.
it's like, how do you let them be kids as well?
Right.
So as parents, I also understand the moms that come to me because sometimes they feel lost. They're like, I don't know how to raise my daughter. I don't really know what she needs. She doesn't want to come out of her room.
Mm-hmm.
She's having panic attacks. And I'm like, you know what? You're doing the best you can. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, what she needs is just for you to be there for her.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you just have to be there, give her a hug, spend some time, listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. You don't have to do anything. I feel like our girls just and our kids just needs us to be there in the moment
Yeah.
instead of doing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we also get sucked into the social media as well, or like that, because now my work can primarily be done on my phone. And so I catch myself like, okay, I'm just going to send out an email, or I'm just going to make this graphic, or I'm just going to do this. But then what my child sees is me being on my phone all the time. And my husband also owns his own business. And so he is on his phone. He's constantly either getting a phone call, getting texts, getting emails, but he owns a construction or roofing business. And so that is what our children see, is us working on our phone or being on our phone. So of course they're going to think that, well, you're on your phone. Why can't I be on my phone? So then it's this constant, like, yeah, it's just almost like this vicious cycle where and I've seen all these like memes where it's like people sitting at tables and you're out to eat at this beautiful restaurant and both people are on their phones. And it's like, we're so disconnected from each other and ourselves because this thing carries so much weight. And for those that can't see, it's my phone, but it carries so much weight. And, literally, if you leave your house without your phone, what is your first thought? Like, oh my gosh, I have to go back and turn around and get my phone because I cannot live without it. If we left something else at home, we'd probably be like, oh, it's fine. I can go for the day without it. But if you leave your phone, that's like a whole nother story, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. We have become so dependent on our phones and we do everything from there. And yeah, our kids are always watching us.
Mm-hmm.
So we are their biggest models.
Yeah.
Not saying we're not gonna go towards being perfect because we're trying
Right.
to move away from that,
Yeah.
but just be mindful, You just be mindful, maybe set a time for you to be on your phone and do your work on your phone. That's something that I have been also implementing myself because also I work from my phone, social media is where I get most of my clients,
Yep.
but just bringing mindfulness, like what times can I use to be on my phone? Maybe when my daughter's doing her homework or when she's at school, like really, and time myself also. So I think if we also set up those boundaries with our kids and let them know the effects that social media, the effects that are being on our phones for a long time have. It's just a matter of having these conversations, setting up a time to have these conversations and just being open about it.
Yeah.
You know, what age is appropriate for your kids to have social media or to even have a phone, right? Do they really need it in elementary?
Right.
Maybe not, because you're doing the rides back and forth. Middle school, maybe at a certain time, if you're a working parent, that's when we got into the decision that it was time for my daughter to have a phone just to get in contact with her on the pickup times. But yeah, just we're trying our best as parents and also tap into your intuition. I tell moms, tap into your intuition, really take take that time, 10-15 minutes to just be in silence and be in touch with your inner voice. What is that inner wisdom really telling you? And then that's your answer. That's your answer. Because not even the news, not even wherever you get your resources, your information, they're not going to give you the right answer.
Right.
Because your family is unique. Now, the mom, you're unique, and your daughter or your boys as well. So definitely, I always do this work to tap into their intuition.
Yeah. I love that. So can you explain to us a little bit about how you work with girls? Like, do you do things online or do you do things in person, or how does it work?
Yes, I do my in-person workshops in person, and these are 2-hour workshops. We talk about the mindset tools, and then we have an empowering craft. So this empowering craft is a hands-on craft where I allow them to be creative, to tap into their imagination, to get into their genius zone. And this craft also serves as a reminder, because they get to take it home as a reminder to continue practicing what they learn in the workshop. So it's not only about one day, but it's continuing that inner work that they learn. I do a nutrition portion within the in-person workshop where we tap into like the mind and body connection. So with that nutrition portion, they get to create a healthy snack with fruits and vegetables. It's very hands-on as well. They get to chop in either for the salad or for avocado toast, like smash it. So that is also a favorite part for the girls. And then at the end, we go through an open dialogue. So what are their biggest takeaways? What are especially their insights? Because through the workshop, it's a transformation that the girls go through.
Yeah.
I have girls that come in quiet, shy, feeling scared, and we do acknowledge those feelings at the beginning. We do a check-in, and at the end of the workshop, I'm like, how do you guys feel? The girls are talking to each other. They're asking me questions. They have already tapped into their self-confidence. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like a 2-hour transformation here in the making. So those are my in-person workshops. I started coaching online, and that's once a week for an hour. So with the virtual coaching, it's going deeper because these are my girls from 11 to 15, middle school and high school. That's when they already start with a really loud inner critic. They have a lot of limiting beliefs from different sources. So we definitely tap into the thought patterns. What are those limiting beliefs? And then we reframe them. So I teach them the different mindful techniques for them to reframe those limiting beliefs. We tap into this body image, the self-image. And then I also get to listen to the girls if they're having a hard time with friendships. A lot of the times it's a lot of toxic friendships in middle school and sometimes in high school. So we work through that. Like, what are your values as a girl? How do you want to show up? And what kind of friends do you want? I tell them, you get to choose your friends. Your friends don't choose you. You
Yeah.
know, what kind of friends do you want? What kind of traits? What personality?
Mm.
And that is your circle that
Yeah.
you're surrounded, that you're creating. So you have to be mindful. So
Mm.
yeah, I always get to listen to the girls. What are their needs? What are they struggling with? And I ask them, what are your challenges? And then I give them some coaching.
Mm. I love
Mhm.
that. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's so important because who you surround yourself with, I mean, you're with these people, especially if you're in school, you're with these people like all day. And then they're speaking into you at night too, like if they're your friends. And so it's like you need to pick ones that are going to be, I can think of just people in my life who picked friends that just weren't great influences and they ended up just doing really dumb things and messed, I don't want to say messed their life up because we are all on a journey and we are all going through, we're whatever happens it's like meant to happen kind of thing. But it's so hard to watch people connect with these people that are just, so maybe I could speak to that too. If you can speak to that, like if you see someone who is struggling, especially a girl who's in this age and she is struggling with these friends that she is keeping, but she doesn't want to let go of them or get rid of them because, I mean, we get attached. We get attached to our friends, we get attached to the people, even if they're not good for us. It's like, but I don't want to look bad. I don't want them to think poorly of me. Like I want to fit in. Like as a girl, I can just so relate to this. Like, I just want to fit in. I just want to, yeah, I want to be liked. I want to be loved and I want to find acceptance. And so you find a group that's going to accept you and whatever it is, like, you honestly really don't care at that age. You're like, oh, these people accept me. So I'm just going to be friends with them. So how do you speak into someone who's at that age that is struggling with something like that?
Yeah. So I do have a great example of one of the girls that did my coaching. And she did have that only friend that was putting everyone down, the whole group down. So when we talked about it I told her to really like talk to this friend and ask her where this was coming from, you
Mm.
know? Was this a pattern that she learned at home or at school, or was there something else behind that? So she was a stand for the whole group. She did
Mhm.
speak to the girl and
Wow.
she actually asked her, like, where is this coming from? You know, you usually put us down. We don't feel right. We feel
Mhm.
uncomfortable when you make those comments. And the girl kind of didn't care.
Yeah.
She continued that pattern,
Mm.
that unhealthy pattern. And that's when everyone made a decision and said, you know what,
Mm.
unfortunately, she's not going to be in our group. So they were able to let her know that their values are different
Mm.
and that it wasn't aligned with their group. So by
Mhm.
her being a stand and processing what she was going through, because she didn't even know it was a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So I brought it up actually another girl brought it up in the group. That's when she got the awareness, like, oh my
Mm.
God, like this girl does this to us. I'm like, I don't think she's a good friend. So then we started depicting the whole situation. And yeah, it's just when the girls also hear it from other girls, you know. I love this coaching because it's in a group setting and
Mhm.
the girls learn from each other and they
Mhm.
start getting these insights and these ideas and also this awareness of where do they really stand and who do they really want to be.
Mm.
So I will say yes, like having open communication, you know, and for the girls as well. I know it takes risks because you do want
Mhm.
to fit in at that age, you know. So it takes courage because I was like, you're so courageous, you did it. It takes courage, but why not teach our girls to be courageous,
Mm.
even
Yes.
if they don't fit in, you know,
Yes.
even if they don't belong, and that it's okay to be alone until
Mm.
they find their tribe.
Yes.
They don't always
Yes.
have to fit in. And another example is my oldest daughter. She went through this in middle school. There was a lot of bullying in her because she's very loud. She loves to speak, right? It's her personality. And
Mhm.
but a lot of people wanted to shut her down, put her in a box.
Mm.
And I taught her at home that no, you're able to be yourself as long as you're respectful,
Yeah.
just be yourself. So then she decided she took up on reading. And she would read on the hallways by herself until she found one friend, and they became good friends through that middle school. And yeah, you only need one friend. That's what I tell the girls, Don't be sucked into that. You need to know all these people. You need to be the popular girl at
Yes.
school.
Yes.
Because in the long run, when you get older, those were not the real friends.
No.
They start falling apart.
Yes.
But yeah, at that age, it's really tough
It
because
is.
girls do really want to be in a group.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to see vulnerable if they're alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting because, and I don't know where the feeling you need to fit in came from because I mean, I don't feel like, I mean, even having conversations with my mom, she was not the popular girl at school, but for some reason I felt like I needed that. Like that's what I needed to be. I needed everyone to like me. I needed to fit in. And so that I remember having my daughter and thinking to myself, oh man, I just hope that she really fits in with the popular people, that she doesn't get picked on and she doesn't get bullied and that she finds this group. And now that I think about it, I'm like, why? Now that I've done this work and I know what's really important, it's like, no, she just needs to be herself. And so here I was probably instilling on her that she needed to be the popular one and she needed to be the likable one and all of that. And so it's just really interesting how we parent, when we think this is what they need to be. I just didn't want her to be picked on. That was my biggest thing, is I just didn't want my kids to be picked on. I didn't want them to be bullied. I didn't want, so it was like imposing these things that I felt like they needed so that they wouldn't get picked on and bullied and, all of this stuff. And it's just wild to think about it. Yeah.
And you just touch up on something important. So many of the times we transmit our fears,
Mm.
because that was me in elementary. I was so fearful that my daughter wouldn't belong to a group,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't be perceived as a certain person. And I also put her in a box in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school. But it got to the point that it was too much, because she had a particular teacher that was on top of her because of the way she was being. And I got
Mm.
tired and I'm like, what are we doing to my daughter? Are
Yeah.
we also like going into that system and trying to put her in the box?
Mm.
So that was a big eye opener for me. I'm like, oh no.
Mm.
Like, I was a little girl and I was shut down all the time because I had a loud laugh and I was so loud. And many of the times it would tell me, be quiet, you're so loud, stop laughing.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
learned how to be quiet
Yeah.
until I was really relearning how to be myself. But I was doing the same thing to my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
because the teachers wanted her to be quiet and didn't want her to speak up when she needed to or ask the questions. And that is the system that we live in. Some teachers don't like kids that ask too many questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just bringing mindfulness to now give them our fears.
Yes.
And
Mm.
that's when we do our own inner work. That we become aware. We're like, oh shit, is that my fear? Or is that
Mm-hmm.
something
Yes.
they are doing? Like, let me ask this question to myself.
That's such a great point. Oh, such a great point. Just wanted to sit with that for a minute because that was really, really good. Like, yeah, are we just putting our fears into our children? Are we just instilling those fears that we have when we could just let them live and be their own selves? It is, yeah, that's hard. Mm. But I love a piece that I wanted to speak on too, is I love in this group that you bring in is creating this sisterhood. Like that is something that I love, and I have an episode on that specifically in its of itself because there was some deep wounding around feminine relationships in my life, and specifically with some friend groups, and I just felt like, oh, I don't really even need women. I don't need feminine relationships anymore. Like I'm just gonna kind of stand over here and do my own thing. I still had friends. I still had the ones that I've had for a really long time, and they're my core group of friends. But I love that you bring this at such a young age, that we can work together as women as girls, and that you're bringing that in, and that they're seeing that at a young age, where it can be such a beautiful relationship, and we can cheer for each other, and we can help each other, and we can help figure this out together instead of competing and feeling like you have to be better than this girl, or have to say, a better answer than she's saying so that I look better. Because I think there's so much wounding around that in our society. And so that is something that I'm trying to bring to the world, is like creating these spaces where women feel so empowered to be together, to be able to like, okay, how can I help you? And then when I need help, like, hey, can you help me? Because I am struggling right now too. So I love that you bring it in at a young age to really build that up, so that women in the next generation are going to be so stinking, like, just cheering each other on. Like, oh, I love it. I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. That is my purpose, to
Mm,
have them like really unite them
mm,
and let them know that we are stronger together.
yeah.
Because I think, yes, in middle school, that's when girls start getting very mean to each other.
Mhm. Yeah.
And many of the times is because they're comparing themselves and they don't know how to deal with those feelings,
Mm,
those
yeah.
emotions, and they want to pick on someone else just to
Mm,
bring them down.
yes.
But that's why it's so important to do this work,
Mhm.
especially at a young age, because once our girls get to understand where those feelings come from or where those thoughts start, then they're able to shift it in an empowering way.
Mm,
And they're able to practice compassion and acceptance with themselves first before they can share it out to others.
mm,
So, I mean, if we do that and we are aware of that, we're not going to be mean to other girls.
right.
Instead, we're going to be like, okay, like, how can I help you? Like you said, like, I know this, let me share this with you. The information as well. That's something as we get older, right? We think like having this information, we know it, we're not going to share it. But no, it's important to share it out to the world, because that is you sharing your talents and sharing your strengths. And no one is going to be like you. That's what I
Mhm.
tell the girls.
Yeah.
No one is going to be like you. If a girl's doing a performance and you guys are in the same set, you are going to do it on your unique way, and she's going to do it in her unique way, even though if you guys have the same part.
Mhm.
So why comparing ourselves, or why putting someone else down when you are unique?
Yeah.
Like, just embrace yourself, your
Mm,
uniqueness, and then cheer everyone else because they are showing up as they are.
mm. I love that. Yes,
Mhm.
so true. It is something that I really feel. That's why I wanted to have a conversation with you about this, because I just feel like that's part of my life's work too, is just creating sisterhood. But I love that you're doing it at a young age, where then they can just grow and just build on that. And like I said, then like the next generation, if we can teach our children young to love and support each other, and that, if you are what I went to this awesome conference this last weekend, and one of the big things that I took away was, when I rise, you rise. When we rise, like, we all rise together. Like, if you rise, I rise. I rise, you rise. Like, we can empower each other and build each other up and grow together. It's not like a competition. We're not here. It's actually, it'll do more harm by judging and comparing and trying to put that person down so that you look better. But if we come from this energy of like, I want her to win just as much as me, if not more. Like, I want her to shine so bright. And in me feeling in that energy of shining so bright and wanting her to shine that bright, then it's just going to bring my energy, and I'm going to shine more, because I am so excited about her and her and her, and like helping everybody else. Is like, you cannot, like, I just even feel it inside of me right now. Like, you can't not feel the excitement and the energy of that. It's like, I want you to do amazing, amazing things. And I'm going to be over here and I'm going to cheer for you. And I'm going to be so excited for you. And then when I do amazing things, I hope that you cheer for me. And we can just keep this like awesome excitement bubble just moving and going and just rippling around. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. So when I came this morning, when I came to your podcast, I was very intentional. I saw your light and then I saw my light and how they both of them came together. And that is the work that I want for the girls as well.
Mm.
For them to share their light and let other girls share their light. And
Mm.
there's no competition.
Right.
It's like we'll become brighter. We just really
Yes.
share it out to the world. Yes, I know I'm feeling it as well here.
Oh, it's just,
The excitement.
yeah. Mm. Thank you so much for having this conversation. I feel like that is such a great point. I feel like that is just such a great way to like wrap this up, to end this, because it's been just such a great conversation around this. So for our listeners here, if someone is here today and they're like, oh, I want my daughter to feel that. I want her to be able to work with someone so that she can feel that light inside of herself, and that she isn't doing this comparison, and that she has that support that she needs. Because I love therapy. Therapy is great. I think talk therapy is great, but I also feel there's a component of doing something like what you're doing, where you're having them in a group. I think is one part that is just super, super awesome and unique about that. And then doing hands-on the activities that you're doing inside your in-person stuff, and really working, because we are, especially young girls too, just speaking at them, I don't think is always the best. Like, they need to be involved and moving and doing and all that. So can you speak to how people can work with you, and how, yeah, just to create all that?
Yeah, awesome. So definitely people can reach out to me through my social media handles, y.e.s.girlife, or through my website, blissfulmindscoaching.com. But it is different than therapy. I'm also pro therapy. I love therapy, but this is a different way that we integrate the mindset and the mindfulness. So it is a mind and body. And I also say spiritual, whatever faith each girl practices. But it's like seeing her as a whole, right? Because our girls have a lot of energy inside of them. And maybe sitting down at a therapy session might not work for them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I have to offer is more, they're using everything. They're using all her senses. I mean, from preparing the meal, the smell, the touch, doing the craft, their touch, seeing, like they're using their whole senses. And it's a beautiful integration that they're getting to learn themselves from the inside. So like that, they can show up to the world as who they are.
Yeah.
And it is a process. We're all in this journey, until you step into a journey and you're very intentional, you start learning that there's no end goal,
Right.
or there's no way of doing
Yes.
it. So also, like, let your girls know. I
Mm.
think, let me just touch up a little bit on
Absolutely.
academics.
Yeah.
Academics, we have high expectations.
Mhm.
And the girl that I talk to, their answer is always, I want to get better grades. I want to get the I want to do good in school. Like, where they're so
Yes.
programmed. I'm like, you're more than your grades.
Mm.
What else
Yes.
do you want in life?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, definitely we
I
need to.
love that. And we can even speak on that a little more if you want to,
Okay.
because
Mhm.
I think that's so important. It brought up a couple stories, but there was this child, one of my children's friends, and they were so focused on this test that they were taking, like stressed, like so stressed, almost like pukey stressed, because the pressure from their parents on getting a good grade was so strong. You have to get good grades. I want you to go to college, because, I think both of the parents had really well-to-do jobs. And so there was just so much pressure and demand on getting good grades, getting into a good college. There's so much pressure that we put on our kids to be who maybe we weren't quite able to be and we want them to be, or who we feel like they should be. And it's almost like taking a step back and saying, but who are they? Who are they really? Are we trying to, it's like, again, what we said, are we imposing our beliefs onto them and what we feel like, our fears, our thoughts, what we think they should be? Or are we really allowing them to be who they want to be and who they are meant to be? So I think that was such a good point that you made. And I really just wanted to make sure that we, caught that too, because it's so powerful and so it needs to be heard.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's an important message because they are feeling the pressure academically. Now it's like, what university are you going to get in? And universities are getting harder. I just went through this with my oldest daughter. They're asking more of them because everyone can get the grades now. Everyone can have the A's. Now, what else are you doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the expectations are high for our kids. But you know what? There's hope. There's hope. And the most important thing is to really have a healthy mindset, like their mental wellness. Because if not, they're not gonna thrive. And our mind is very important and how we take care of it. It's the conductor of our whole body. So we really have to be mindful. Yes.
I love that. I'm going to put all of your info below in the show notes so people can find your website. They can find it's called Yes Girls, right? That's your
Yes, Girl Life.
Yes Girl Life.
Yes,
Yes,
Girl
I
Life.
love that. I love that. And what ages, so that everybody knows, what ages do you work with?
In person, I'm doing 7 to 15 years old, and virtual 11 to 15 years old.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for the work that you are doing in the world with these girls. I truly love it. I love watching you and your journey. So, and thank you so much for being here today. Is there any parting words or anything that you want to say before we wrap this up?
As a parent, you're doing your best. So I'm really cheering you on. If you need someone to talk to, just to vent or just to share your experience, reach out to me. Okay, I'm here for you.
I love that.
Thank you for having me, Jessica.
Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you loved listening as much as I loved recording. Each and every conversation that I have here on this podcast just lights my soul on fire. I love having conversations where we explore and challenge our ways of thinking. So if you've resonated with anything here and you're looking for more, please connect with me on Facebook in my Soul Deep community group, which is free. I'm also offering all my listeners a free month in my Soul Deep Connection membership. I have poured my heart and soul into this membership, bringing you resources to help you grow into the best and truest version of yourself. I've used my knowledge and experience as a nurse, combined with my knowledge and experience as a coach, breathwork facilitator, and somatic embodiment guide. This library consists of breathwork, kriyas, and other resources and modalities that will help you learn about and give you the healing tools to live the life you've been dreaming about, and to help you find your true passion and zest for life again. This library of resources is vital for everyday maintenance. And on top of the library of resources, there are live monthly calls, ranging from breathwork, kundalini, full moon or new moon circles, as well as guest speakers on a variety of different topics, from decluttering to marketing to sisterhood and all things healing and wellness. So make sure you join today to get you back on track to living that thriving life that you are longing for. Remember, the first month is free, and my hope is that you find so much value that staying is an absolute no-brainer. It really is everything that I was looking for as I started my journey, and so much more. I truly hope to see you inside my community. And if you haven't yet, please follow me here and on social. Like and subscribe, and make sure to share your favorite episode with your friends and community. And when you do, make sure to tag me in that post. If you tag me, you'll be entered into a drawing for that month where you can win a free one-to-one session, breathwork or coaching session with me. All the links will be in the show notes here below. Until next time, Soul Deep fam, and in the words of my dear friend Mary Lacey Banks, I'm holding you so tight in a thought hug.